Welcome everyone. Bienvenue. We're so glad you're here to join with us today. We're going to hear from Mark Greenside, who's the author of 3 books about his part-time life in Brittany. And so I'm delighted to have been invited to chat with Mark about his latest book. Without further ado, I want to invite Mark to come on screen. Hello, Mark.
Hello, John.
So Mark Greenside, here's a little bit about him. Mark Greenside is an acclaimed American author and memoirist. He's best known for his candid explorations of life as an accidental expat in France. He's a Brooklyn native and a longtime resident of California. And his writing journey began with short stories, essays, and fiction. And he found his greatest inspiration after a fateful trip to Brittany in middle age sparked an ongoing love affair with the region's people, culture, and quirks. Mark's books include the popular I'll Never Be French, No Matter What I Do, Not Quite Mastering the Art of French Living, and his latest book, I Am Finally, Finally French, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. And they chronicle the often hilarious, sometimes poignant challenges of navigating French life as an outsider, finding his place. He's a former professor of history and political science, and he has contributed to numerous national publications and anthologies. He splits his time between Brittany and the San Francisco Bay Area. So anyway, thank you, Mark, for being here today. And I'm gonna start asking you questions and hear what you have to share about this book.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the first one is your first 2 books. So you first came to Brittany about 30 years ago, and not willingly initially. That's part of the story told in Mark's first 2 books. And for those of you who have not read them, you really should. I mean, you really need all 3 of these books. They're wonderful. And so in the first 2 books, Mark sort of tells a story about all the adventures he had and misadventures, learning about life in Brittany, learning to speak French, all these things. And he writes about the things he learned along the way. But what I wanted to ask you today is what made you want to write this latest book? What was your goal really in writing I'm Finally French?
It's a really good question. Over the years, I've read dozens, maybe scores of books about people living in France, expats or wannabe expats or dreamers or just people who have an experience traveling and living somewhere else. And the books are overwhelmingly the same story in a different way. And it's what my first book was about also. And it's the story of coming to a new place, meeting new people, making new friends, maybe buying a house. It's the story of new beginnings. All of these books are stories of finding something new and beginning a new life as a result of you meet somebody or whatever. And that's how my first book, I'll Never Be French, ends. It ends with I buy a house. I'm now here several months a year, and this is a new beginning for me. But it's 30 years later now. It's no longer a new beginning. And I wanted to write about that. I wanted to write about having been there 30 years, and part of it is the 30-year stretch of being there. But the other part of it is I'm 30 years older. So, at one point in the book, I bought the house when I was 47. So at one point in the book, I say, when I was 47, I looked at older people and I didn't see myself. Now at 77, I look at younger people and I think, you have no idea. So this book has a different kind of perspective. It deals with time, and the passage of time, and it deals with change over time, my change over time. So I want to read you a little passage
Right.
that's towards the end of the book about the differences. When I was younger, I thought I could transform the future, stop and speed up time, and change things that never seem to change, like human nature. I wanted to eliminate greed, selfishness, authoritarianism, class, abuse, racism, poverty, hunger, colonialism, imperialism, and oppression. I was all for the creation of the new man, which at the time included the new woman. I believed in Che and Mao and revolutionary change. But that was then, and this is now. Now I'm a preservationist and conservationist, not wanting to change the world, wanting instead to preserve and conserve what's good and right and beautiful. Now I know there's a time for everything, a time for revolution and for preservation, and that my time is speeding up as I'm slowing down. So it's one of the things I wanted to do was deal with time and deal with aging, which, as far as I can see, none of the other books by expat kind of people deals with. Everybody deals with first time, it's the first day of the rest of my life, new beginnings, which is great. But people actually do get older in France, And the other thing I wanted to write about is that you can also be gloomy in France. I mean, it's not a gloomy book. There's a lot of humor in it, but there are down days, there are down weeks, and I'm not just talking about problem, like the washing machine doesn't work or you got a flat tire. I mean, all the books deal with the problems you have of living a bicultural life and trying to learn new ways of doing things. I'm talking about that F. Scott Fitzgerald, the deep, dark doom of the night at 3:00 in the morning, that kind of gloom. So there's a chapter in the book about that, and I'm not going to read it, any of it now, unless somebody wants me to later. But there's one chapter that deals with gloom, which again is something I've not seen in any of the other books that I've read, where people they talk about problems, but they don't talk about that real dark, deep night of the soul in the 3:00 in the morning kind of feeling. So that's what the overriding piece was for that I wanted to achieve in writing the book.
Yeah. And I must say, I think you did a really great job of it. You're right. There's a sort of dimension to this book that isn't so typical to find in these books. It's usually more looking at either the humorist or the, being in love with France part. So it's, I think, nice that you did that. And it's real.
Yeah, it is real. And I mean, what you don't have at 47 is a sense of an ending. And that's what's different, in this. Yeah.
Right. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about is, so you're spending about half of your time in California, in the Bay Area, and then about half of your time in this tiny little village called Plobien. It's a pseudonym, but that's the name of the village in your books. In this little coastal village in Brittany. And so I wanted to ask what that's like, having those two different lifestyles that you're sort of going back and forth between. And in particular, what do you find in Plobien that you don't find in your life in California?
It's a good question too. I don't spend half a year. I'm still on the 90-day visa plan, so I spend 3 months there a year, and I really like the bifurcated life, the bicontinental bifurcated life, where I get different parts in different places. So, for instance, Plobien is a village of 500 people. It's next to a village of 6,000 people. I live in the Bay Area, over 1 million people. I was brought up I was born and brought up in New York. 10 million people. So that's one of the huge differences. Difference between small town life very small town life, village life, and very urban life. Um, and I like the balance of the two. Another difference is, in the States, um, I worry about locks. Everything has to be locked. Did I lock the door when I left? When I leave, all of that stuff. I don't worry about locks in Plobey, and I worry about keys. Actually, I don't even worry about keys. There are multiple sets of keys in the village. I don't even know who has them. Sometimes people, when they've had emergencies, have come and used the house. Sometimes when I've had emergencies, like the house flooded once, those kinds of things that are very different in terms of locking and unlocking. I know the house has been a love nest at least a couple of times. People have used the keys for whatever they want. There's a chapter in the book, because I'm different also, but in the small town and a large city. There's a chapter in the book called Knock Knock, and that chapter begins with, in the U.S., hardly anybody knocks on my door unannounced, and I prefer it that way. In Plobeian, everybody knocks on my door unannounced, and I prefer it that way also.
Mm.
I'm much more open and receptive in Plobeian.
Mm.
Yeah. Life in Plobeian and in France is much more personal than it is in the States. In the States, it tends to be more impersonal. You don't really have a lot of dealings. You do have dealings. You don't have relationships with a lot of people. For instance, here in California recently, the washing machine broke. So we called our regular guy, Mr. Kim. He's been coming for years. And he comes exactly at the time he says he's going to come. He fixes it. He charges us. We pay the bill. He leaves, and we don't see him again until the next time something breaks. In France, Monsieur C, my plumber friend, he comes by. He fixed the furnace. Actually, he replaced the furnace. He comes by sometimes just to look at the furnace. Sometimes he comes by to knock on the door and come in for a cup of coffee. Whenever he works at the house, he always stays afterwards for a cup of coffee, and we chat. I've been to Mr. C's house. I've met his wife. I've met his family. I've eaten meals there. I know more about Monsieur C, than I do about any of my neighbors in California. And it's
And these conversations are going on in French, right? Mr. C, does he speak English?
no.
Oh,
He
this is
listens
all
to
in French.
yes, he listens to my bizarre French,
Yeah.
and I can't honestly say he understands me, and I can certainly honestly say I don't always understand him. But we sit there and we talk and we laugh and we have a conversation and we drink coffee.
There's something really wonderful about that, I think. Yeah. Sort of stripping friendship and amitié down to the essentials, right? Yeah. Friendly person who cares about you, who wants to spend time with you, and is going to ignore your faults and just sort of go with it. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
it is beautiful.
So, one of the things I love about your books is that they're hilarious, and you describe all these situations that are, most of them are sort of what a lot of people would consider to be embarrassing incidents that that stem either from the lack of ability to speak or to understand French, or something about the way things are done in France. Well, and so you're hilarious. I mean, really, when I read your books, I'm frequently laughing out loud. But so what I wanted to ask you is, how is it that you manage to laugh about the same things that other people might find simply embarrassing?
Well, I do find them embarrassing. Some of them. But when I write about it, well after the fact,
Mhm.
it's not like I'm always enjoying and laughing at everything all the time while it's happening. But after the fact, what I'm able to do is separate myself from the event and separate myself from myself. So it's essentially an out-of-body experience. So, I love Peter Mail's books, but especially the first one, A Year in Provence. Most of his humor was aimed at making fun of French people. My books make fun of me, and the humor is not about people other than me. It's situational. It's about the situation, and so what I do is I step back and make sort of an out of body experience, so I can watch the thing, and I try to watch it from the perspective of the other person, and because the other person has to be hilarious. I don't know if you ever had the experience where somebody comes up to you and says something that is totally wacko, and but they're absolutely frank and sincere in what they're saying, and you're not going to laugh until later.
Yeah, right.
That's what this is. So I have a chapter in the book called "He's Here," and it's a chapter that goes through all the people I regularly see, and imagines what they think when I first arrive. So it's literally me imagining what all these other people, friends, neighbors, think. And that's one of the ways I get some of the humor. So I'm going to read you a little bit about my neighbor, Francoise. He's here. That's what I imagine Francois, my neighbor to the west, is thinking when he sees the shutters open on my house and my car with its leased red foreigner license plates in the driveway. He has lots of friends and family in the village and talks with everyone who passes by except me. To him, my presence means another summer of not talking to his neighbor. It's not that he actually wants to talk with me. It's that he thinks I'm rude because I don't talk to him. It's not that I don't want to talk with him, but he speaks so quickly and makes no allowances for my idiocy, as everyone else does. To him, I've been here 30 summers. How could I not speak French? And then he speaks to me very fast with a southern accent because that's where he lived and worked before he retired and bought the house from his sister. And then I feel even more idiotic. So we spend every summer with me avoiding him, just a wave and a bonjour as I drive in and out of my driveway, and him thinking I'm rude. Complicating things, I'm sure, are the many French people who regularly visit me and stay for hours, which to him must confirm my unneighborly rudeness. He must think he talks to them, why not me? And then it goes on. So I'm imagining what Francois thinks when I arrive. Next chapter is my neighbor on the other side. Not the next chapter, the next section. It's my neighbor on the other side, Bruno and Francois. What do they think when I arrive? And I make my way sort of through the village. And the whole chapter is looking at my arrival from other people's perspective. And it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I speak as, I'm an American who lives in a small village also in Champagne.
Right.
I'm certainly, when I read these parts of your books, I so identify because that is, it's true. You're sort of stuck in this weird position where you can't really, you can't adequately explain to them whatever it is. You are aware of what they probably must think. They don't know what to. So I remember, I haven't written about this yet, but I had this one really funny encounter with somebody who I had to have help changing a lock or fixing a lock. And there was this whole complicated set of circumstance where I thought he was somebody else. And anyway, the point is that I knew that there was this person on the other end of the line who was thinking, here's somebody with somebody I don't know. They've got this American accent. I don't even know if she knows she's talking to the right person. And what I said to my husband later is, I'm really lucky he didn't just hang up on me. He didn't. Stayed on the line. and figured it out. He stayed on the line till I said, wait, are you? And then we sorted it out. But yeah, I mean, it's a common thing to get caught in these kinds
It's
of,
wonderful, their patience, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. I do see some questions stacking up, and so I want to take some time for those. But there's one question I want to ask
Okay.
before we go to the questions that your audience has, and that is that I want to sort of highlight that there's a last section of your book in which you list 21 things that you've learned about France, Brittany, and yourself in the 30 years you've spent time there. And there's really a lot of valuable wisdom and practical advice implied in these 21 things. But I wanted to ask you about one of the really critically important things in France, which is this difference between vous and tu. And you start out by saying vous and tu matter. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, they do matter, and they matter so much that I only use vous. My resolution of the situation is to stay formal.
Well, that's the safest way, yeah.
That I make so many other mistakes. I don't need to make more. The problem comes, and it has come, and yeah, I guess it is embarrassing. The problem comes. I mean, I've had numerous friends. I mean, it's 30 years now, right? I know 3, 4, and 5 generations of people in a family, and people say, it's really disturbing when you vous me. I mean, they're tutoring me all the time, and then I respond with vous, and they've told me it's annoying, it's disturbing, and they don't like it. And and I've explained to them why I do it. And, I make so many other mistakes that I guess they just sort of bounce over this one too, as well. That's just another way of, another error that he makes that we have to overlook, if we want to talk to him. So I have a little piece I've written about it in those 21 things. Let's see. Vous and tu matter. Vous is the formal way to address you. Tu is the informal. Think of the old days, which are never far away in France, and a silent Mr. and Mrs., like, comment allez-vous? How are you? And with a silent Monsieur, Madame, as opposed to, comment vas-tu? Sorry. How's it going? In the U.S., I'm Mr. Informal. In France, I'm vous-vouing all the way, because there's little going wrong with vous and lots with tu. And given the number of ways I do go wrong, I need to cut my losses. So here's looking at vous, kid, because tu is too informal and personal to say. I actually have a chapter about this in my second book, Not Quite Mastering the Art of French Living, a chapter on language, because the difference between English and French, spoken English and French, I think is vast. And in English, basically we communicate to be understood. And if you are understood, you basically consider yourself as having successfully communicated. Not in France. In France, how you do it, how you say it, how you express yourself is much more important. And doing it the proper way carries weight. France is a very hierarchical society. They categorize everything, they rate everything. And one of the ways you as a person get categorized and rated is how well do you communicate? How well do you speak? I mean, I had a neighbor of mine read a note that somebody had written me, because I couldn't read it. Handwrite. First of all, it was handwritten, and secondly, it was French. And first thing he said was, "This person speaks terrible. This person doesn't know French." They're not educated. I mean, we might do the same thing, but it would have a different meaning.
Yeah.
In this country, I mean, you get placed in society your place in society, especially if you're French, is determined by how you communicate. It's that important. The knock knock chapter that I told you about earlier, with people knock on the door. Um, Nobody knocks in the States, and everybody knocks in Plobia. That chapter ends like this: in the U.S., knock knock is the beginning of a joke. In France, it's the beginning of the most important thing in French life, more important than food, wine, sex, or sport. It's the start of a conversation. Hello, it's me. I'm here.
Yeah.
Nothing takes place in France without a conversation, a personal
It's
contact.
beautiful too. Yeah, I used to, when I was coming over every summer and raising my two American sons, one of the things my husband and I tried to teach them, because we would eat our meals, family meals together, and they would, as soon as they're done eating, they would say, can I have an excuse? Can I go? We'd say, no, we're not, we're not done yet. And they, yeah, I'm done. We'd say, no, a meal is food plus conversation.
Right.
And they didn't buy it, really. But they've grown up to both live in France. So anyway, I see that we've got quite a few questions here. And so I'm going to start with the first one is from Dawn. And she says, France is a big, beautiful country. How did you decide where to buy?
That's the story of my first book. I had a girlfriend who wanted to go to Brittany. She'd been there before and wanted to show it to me. And I really didn't want to go. The whole story is in the first book. I didn't want to go, but I did want to be with her. So we did go, and we broke up, but I fell in love with Brittany. And there's a whole long story of how I wound up buying a house in Brittany. But I bought it because, one, it's absolutely gorgeous. Everything about Brittany is beautiful. And two, I had met several people there that first summer when we rented a place before I bought a house that I knew would be lifelong friends. And between the beauty of the place and knowing I could have lifelong friends, and that I could afford it, sort of, made it possible.
Yeah, again, I really recommend reading all of Mark's books. That they're really, it's a wonderful journey that you go on with him. I see that we have a question from Georgina. She says, do you get visitors from New York during your time in France? And do you think ease of travel to Paris airports is important in choosing a location to buy? And then also, do you go up to Paris, or can one rely on Brest or Quimper for city activities and culture? She says, we intend to live in Brittany full time.
Lucky you. Let's see where to begin. Going through Charles de Gaulle is always terrible, but it's probably the most direct way. We actually now fly French B, which is a charter airline in France, and for us, the beauty of it is, besides the fact that it's cheaper, it lands in Orly. And if you're going to Brittany, landing in Orly is great because you bypass Charles de Gaulle Airport and you bypass the peripherique. So you're an hour and a half closer to Brittany if you land at Orly, and you bypass all those other things you don't want to do. Yes, people from New York come, people from California come, people from North Carolina come, people from all over the states come, and we love it. I just love showing people around the area, introducing them to some Breton culture, which most of you probably know is Celtic. It's linked to Ireland, Wales, Cornwall. The Breton language is Celtic. It's Gaelic. Excuse me. So it really is a different culture, and we like showing people around. It's physically, geologically, it's gorgeous. The waters and the beaches are pristine. So yeah, you're going to be happy living there.
Thank you. So, I have another question from Sylvia, and she is asking about the new EU customs system called entry-exit. The entry-exit system. She wonders what you think about that.
Well, I haven't experienced it yet. It's been postponed numerous times. It is in effect now. And for people from the States, what it means is you're going to have to go online and fill out some forms before you get on the plane. Essentially, we've been traveling to Europe without a visa forever. Now, this is not quite a visa, but it's required paperwork to get into any country in the EU. And the cost is somewhere I see the numbers keep changing, so I'm not exactly sure what it is, but somewhere around $15. And this is the result of this is what the United States has been doing to Europeans for years. They have to pay to enter the U.S. So they just gone back to doing the same thing for us. The other part of this is when you get to customs, there's a new biometric system for entering. And the first time, especially the first go around with the system, is probably going to be slow and awful. Your passports get entered into a computer, your passport photo. They do fingerprint that enter the system, and I believe they do an eye scan, and they take a photo separate from your passport photo. All that goes in their system, and that's not just a French system, that's an EU system. So the whole EU has access to it, and they use it to monitor you. They can also ask you for proof of residence, where you're going to go when you stay, and proof that you have money that you can get home, and proof that you have medical coverage if something happens. Now, they've always been able to do that, and they rarely do. And the expectation is they will continue to rarely ask those questions, but they can.
Yeah, things are tightening up. Well,
Yeah, everywhere. Everybody's doing their thing with the
yeah.
borders. Yeah.
No. So Keith has a question, and he wants to know, how has living in France changed you?
My wife says it makes me nicer. It makes me more like her, is what she really means. Um, I am more accepting. I am more generous, less judgmental, and willing to be a little more dependent. I hate being dependent in the States. In France, I'm totally dependent. I can't do much without help from somebody. I mean, I can't even read most of my mail, and I need help with the telephone, and so it's sort of, it's made me more patient. I mean, in France, you have to wait for everything. So
And I'm so patient. And
I still grumble.
it's the Americans for sighing and tapping their feet, and
Right.
everybody else is very patient.
They-
We should learn.
I do a little bit.
Yeah. So one more, this is a comment and a question. Someone is saying, I really enjoy your writing, Mark. Please keep writing. For my question, what would you say to someone planning to move to France full time in order to make the transition easier or at least less bumpy?
Winter. Check out winter, wherever you're thinking of going. You really want to know what the weather is, where you're going to be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, whenever you go, you're probably going at the nicest time of year for that area. I mean, when people plan a vacation, that's, they plan to go in the spring or the fall or the summer, whatever is nicest for, that time of year. But if you're really going to move there full time, you want to know what it's like the worst time of year. And you want friends. You want to make sure that there are people you're really going to want to spend time with and be with. If you can learn the language, you know the language, that's great. It's a tremendous help to be able to do that. Life would have been much, much easier, though not as funny if I had no French.
True, not as amused.
No, it wouldn't
In
be.
retrospect, at least. Yeah.
That's right.
Hmm. Well, let's see, we've got we have a few more minutes, not too many. I don't know if anybody else has any questions you want to put into the Q&A. And well, I don't know, Mark, were there any other, I don't see any new ones coming up. Were there any other, is there a short other passage that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, one of the questions you asked was about the difference between plebeian and the U.S. One of them, I mentioned locks and keys, but another part of that is leaving. When we leave the U.S. To go to France, we sort of surreptitiously go out the door and try to get into whatever vehicle is taking us to the airport as quickly as possible and as secretly as possible, because you don't want somebody to know we're going away and leaving the house empty for 3 months.
Right.
In France, everybody knows everything. And when we start to leave, first of all, we begin a week in advance to leave because we have a lot of people to say goodbye to. Goodbye is never a knock on the door of goodbye. Goodbye is always a meal, a drink, a conversation, and it takes time. So we plan a week before how we're going to clean the house, get it ready, say all of our goodbyes, and then on the very last day, the day right before we leave, we go into town. And yeah, unlike in the U.S. where you don't want anybody to know what's going on with your life, your doors are locked, and you don't want them to know you're gone. We go into town and we say goodbye to the townspeople that we've been working with and shopping with and talking with all summer. So the last day we get dressed, we go into town and say au revoir to Eric and Manu, telling them everything. These are the computer people in town. Eric and Manu, telling them everything still works, thanking them for another successful digital experience, and assuring them they're not legally responsible for anything I wrote. Au revoir to Madame J and her son and grandson, thanking them for 30 years of selecting the best fruit and veggies for us to eat. Aujourd'hui, demain, mardi prochain à 15h. Au revoir, Yannick, whose wide-eyed fish chilling on ice are so fresh they look fake. Au revoir, young couple and longtime woman assistant, whose names I don't know, third owners of the charcuterie, where I reserve my poulet libre, free-range chicken, and buy homemade pâté and non-boudin, non-andouille sausages. Au revoir, Claude and Annie, who no longer wince or even blink when I open the door without an appointment and ask an insurance question I'm sure no one has asked before, or at least not in the way I ask it. Au revoir, Fred at the Maison de la Presse, who hosted the book party for I'll Never Be French when it was translated in French and served a punch so potent it got him, Muriel, Jean, and everyone who came into the shop bombed before 11 in the morning. Au revoir, Michelle and Dominique. She English, he fourth-generation French baker, winner of the Best Gâteau Breton and Brittany Award, caught in changing times. Neither of their two daughters wants to spend a lifetime waking up at 4 in the morning to make cakes and tarts for others. It's a widespread generational dilemma. No one in plebeian can imagine life without their patisserie. Donna and I give Michelle 4 cheek kisses each and shake Dominique's hand and thanking them for 30 years of confectionery perfection, beginning with his dad, the third generation, making my birthday cake, and ending with us buying a strawberry tart for dinner tonight. We visit Monsieur Charles to say au revoir and give him five remaining Heinekens. We visit Yvonne, we bring Yvonne our leftover eggs, butter, yogurt, tomatoes, carrots, and peaches, along with food and supplies from a huge shopping that I do. So that's goodbye. So day before we leave. Something I would never do here. I wouldn't want everybody to know we're leaving.
No, no, it's a wonderful sort of recap of, the life you're living there, really. And I see that actually it's time for us to close. And so I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you, Mark, for being here and for offering this wonderful contest. I want to thank everybody, Ollie in the background, making all this technically. I want to, and so we want to thank you all for joining us here at France Today Live. We hope you'll come again. The next event for France Today Live will be on December 4th, and it's going to be, it sounds wonderful, Secrets of Strasbourg, the Capital of Christmas. In this online talk, you will discover Strasbourg through the eyes of local travel writer and longtime Alsatian resident Rich Woodruff, who takes us from the world-famous Christmas markets into the city's year-round charms that will make you want to visit no matter what season of the year. So anyway, thanks everyone. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Janet and France Today.